my cactus live stream, cactus care live stream. I have cactus seeds here lying in front of me that I started cleaning yesterday. In this case, it was seeds of Ulf Meerbold hybrid with Sörensia telegonoides. Very good kind of hybrid. Very good plant for hybrid breeding. I'm a fan. This is from a breeder called Rainer Heise, I believe. And yeah, I'm a fan. I like the Sörensia telegonoides hybrids that I see from him. Seen a lot. Been in contact once, but haven't heard from him. So yeah, great guy, great breeder. And yeah, I'm back. I brought a lot of stuff to do on the stream today. I brought seedlings, cactus seedlings in bags here that I want to go through with you. These are seed-grown cactus seedlings grown on the channel, and I want to share that with you. We will discuss everything. Sowing out. We've been discussing it all the time, and I'm open for questions. I'm open to answer. If you don't know, if you have trouble doing something, replicating something, let's bring it on the channel and we discuss it. That's the kind of channel that I want. So yeah. Then I brought seeds to clean, and I brought the containers from yesterday that I want to open again and check the humidity, because the water that we put in yesterday, these are the second cycles. Yesterday we started a second cycle with sowing out, and I want to short explain what it is. When you have a container and you've been trying to sow out cactus seeds in it, but you did not get any kind of seedlings, then you can try to start a second cycle. It makes no sense to keep cactus seedlings in a closed bag, in like just the seeds, and when they haven't come up, to just leave them there in humidity endlessly, because if nothing has come up within 2 months, it is unlikely that anything will come up later. So yeah, therefore I do a second cycle. We let the soil dry out after the first failed attempt. Everything dries up like it would in nature. You know, you have that dry phase at some point, and then the climate changes, and boom, life finds a way. And that's what we are trying to do. Yesterday, I filled them up with water again after having dried them out. And now we need to open them to check if the water was enough or too much. We need to correct the water. That's what I want to do today. And again, cactus seeds, cactus seedlings. I wanted to look at the vegetables that I have sown out, but nothing had been there yesterday. I had hoped it goes a little bit faster, but apparently they might need a little bit longer to come up. But again, they will come. And until then, I will just get started. I want to clean the seeds that I cleaned yesterday. And it is a fruit by Sörensia telegonoides hybrid Ulf Meerbold from that plant. And the flower was amazing. I loved this plant this year. It was great. It was fun to see it. It flowered with many flowers at once. People loved it. It looked great. I would have almost moved the whole thing into the house to do a time lapse, and I regret not having done it. But it was crooked. It's not a species that grows straight. So I was worried it might fall over in my living room. And then that would be it for the flowers too. So that's why I didn't move that big thing into the house last year. But I really considered it. In the future, I want to do more with this species, with Sörensia telegonoides. It has proven to be worthy to be, to be worked with. And yeah, these are seeds from across. I had 5, 6 big fruits on that thing. And this is one of them. This is fruit number 3. I had numbered them. And this was one of the smaller ones. I really see potential in regards to hybrid breeding with it. It might not be self-fertile, but it had a high number of fruits. So I'm torn. But apparently there was one fruit that was pollinated with pollen from another Cerenzia telegonoides hybrid, and that one was huge. It was a huge fruit, that one fruit, and the others were smaller. So to me, that kind of indicated that it's not self-fertile, because if it were, all the fruits were that big. Because when a plant is self-fertile, it will pollinate right away, and everything usually. So my opinion is that it is probably not self-fertile, and that's why it is great to have so many different fruits on that plant. And yeah, welcome to my stream, guys. I appreciate that you're here. It's going to be a fun day. Just trying to do some work here and there. Cactus seed cleaning right now, and then we will discuss the cactus seedlings. But I just need to get this out of the way, because I left it here yesterday, and I don't want to leave them out too long, because then I would forget what kind of a plant, what kind of seeds these are. So yeah, hope you have a great day, guys. Everything here. Yesterday it was so warm that all the snow disappeared. We had a winter wonderland kind of thing for a while, but yesterday suddenly it rained, and now it's snowing again. Hey, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you around. I'm cleaning cactus seeds, and yeah, just discussing what's going on right now. Bad weather, but at least it's the weekend. Could be worse. Could be like a Monday or something like that. So yeah, I will clean this kind of Cerenzia telegonoides cross, and then I will move on to the seedlings. Later I will do some more seed stuff, but for now, I don't want to spend so much time on it in the beginning. But it's also something that I found another box full of little lobivia fruit, and I want to really look through them to see if there's anything good in it. And I want to do that later, maybe too, if I don't get to it tomorrow. You constantly, sometimes you just put the tiny lobivia fruit in paper bags, and you put them somewhere and forget. And that apparently happened here. Want to be more organized in the future. That's one of my New Year's resolutions. Not that I have them, but I really try to stay on top of the seeds now. It's just too much work to not stay at it, you know. I always have these times when I don't work on it for a month or two. Usually when life gets difficult. But you can't do that. Otherwise you forget it. I forget everything after like 3 weeks or so. So by that time I should have done it. Okay. This is almost clean, maybe 150 seeds, I guess. Probably one of the smallest fruits on that plant that I had. Okay. Just removing a few of the dots here, the unviable seeds. Over here we call them numb seeds. 113 degrees Fahrenheit, right? I always have to calculate it, but I don't have the calculator here because I usually do it over the internet. Is it what is it roughly in Celsius? 40, maybe 35 or what? Must be pretty hot, right? Yeah, over here we're in the middle of winter, and yeah, it's really the whole country was totally chaotic. because we had some really bad kind of snow paired with ice rain, and it affected the whole system. I haven't seen DHL in like, I don't know, 10 days or even longer. Oh, that's rough. That's really rough. Last summer, we had, I don't know, 37, something like that, 37 Celsius. And it was very rough because I live in, like, historically in the past here, people have no air conditioning. That isn't such a big thing in Europe. It didn't used to be such a big thing, and it's becoming one now, because people realize it's getting hard to make it through the summer. Last summer, I was really suffering for that 1 month when it was so bad. I remember that I filmed something, and there were bees and insects everywhere. That had problems. Was really bad. I don't want to imagine how bad it is with even more 44. Probably can't go out then for a while. And I'm really glad that I lost some weight. Yes, I remember. Hey, welcome to the stream. I remember that you asked me this before, I think, right? But yeah, welcome to the stream. So yeah, I just hope that at some point we won't get such extreme heat summers anymore. I didn't know it before. Like, there were always these hot summers, but not like this. And then we get just rain, just flooding, not rain, water. So yeah, I think maybe, yeah, in March, the new season begins already. Doesn't matter if it's cold or not, doesn't matter if there's frost or not. March 15th, this whole thing starts. And I'm looking forward to it this time. Will be great year for filming. And I hope also for the channel. The place here looks really rough in winter, but when spring and when summer come along, it is a beautiful place. Oh yeah. That's rough. That's really rough. Yeah, in Europe, people didn't really have air conditioning in many parts of Europe. I didn't even know what it is until we got it in the car. That was one of the first time I really got in touch with air conditioning. And now it might become the thing that you need in order to make it through the summer. The house where I live, it's heating up in summer. It's cooling out in winter and heating up in summer. Under the roof is pretty, like, there's when I was younger, I lived there, like as a teenager, I lived in the, like, under the roof, like in such a little apartment thing, and the whole thing heats up. You cannot live in it anymore, like in summer. Okay, I think the seats are mostly clean. Bunch of unviable ones here and there. But this is looking pretty good. Just for manual cleaning, this is all right. Just for cleaning. Oh, I forgot the piece of paper that I wanted to bring. I will get one later. Yeah, but this is pretty all right. Clean seats. We could sew them out eventually. Better to clean them under running water, but right now I just want to get them out of the way. Hey, greetings to Luke. Great to have you here. So, okay, this is it. Bagged up the cactus seeds. And at some point we can sew them out. I'm not sure what I will do with them, but I will try to sew them out, or at least give them to someone who will. Yeah, I'm sure I'm sure that stuff happens on a regular basis when the Germans go like on vacation and find themselves in really hostile places, you know, in the desert. There are bad stories about that. Maybe we are too optimistic. Always hoping for the best kind of outcome of the weather. But it also, if you haven't experienced that, you have to kind of see it to believe it, how bad it can be in certain parts, like with the heat and all. Okay. I feel like in the past we had a lot more time in summer that you could really use, where you could really be outside and enjoy it. I don't have that anymore. When I was younger, I spent a large part of the days outside, and you couldn't do that in some months anymore. Okay. Okay, so this was the third fruit of Sörensia telegonoides hybrid Ulf Merbold. Really nice kind of hybrid by probably Rainer Heise. If he sees this eventually, please let me know. Apart from that, yeah, let's do the seedlings. I have a lot of seedlings here. Once again, different ones like last time. So let's get through it. Maybe first one that doesn't have washed pumice, because the washed pumice wasn't really perfect. The others look better. That's why I switched from washed pumice to sowing soil and more organic stuff. So these are the seedlings. Looking great. A lot of work. I don't want to repot them all. But apart from that, these are looking great. Good hybrid cross probably. Oh, let me see. There's something trying to distinguish between a discoloration just from the lamp, or if it's fungus gnat bites. I think these are fungus gnat bites on one seedling. I think we're taking them out. We're taking them out of the humidity. Okay. So these are looking great. I like how they look. Check this out. This is perfect. And I believe they can take being taken out of the bag now. This looks pretty big already. And at this point, it will help to let the soil dry out completely. Just letting the fungus gnat know this isn't the place to be. And they will not be able to replicate once the soil keeps drying out repeatedly. I will let the soil dry out every day, and then I spray them, but only then, only when the soil is very dry. And usually this soil dries within a day. Hey mate, I said it, but again, greetings to Luke. Great to have you here. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. Always happy when you're here. So yeah, let me see what's next. Okay, check this out. Also seedlings. Looking good. They are too deep, you know. It just takes away the visibility a bit, and it takes away being able to just for them to get maximum light. But apart from that, the seedlings look good. I can close it up again. Just closing it up and hoping that it will stay like this for as long as possible. I try to keep them in for as long as possible. Okay, next one. This is very dry. The soil is very dry. You can often feel it when the pot feels light. This one is very light. I think would put in a little bit of water with the leaky can. Okay, but not too much. It's just having a little bit of humidity in there is necessary. At some point, the seedlings will just get smaller and smaller because they lose more water than they can take in just from the humidity in the bag. You can have a dry soil in there and humidity on the walls of the bag, but it isn't enough. It's a fine line. Okay, next one. Okay, let me see. Okay, check it out. Smallish. With the spines look good. You can see that there's some growth a little bit. You know, I'm not sure if you can pick the fine spination up, but they are there and they are growing. And there's one variegated seedling on the edge of the pot. I don't think that one will make it. I really don't. I corrected the position a little bit, but this thing probably doesn't have a chance. It is already, you can see that this is probably not able to produce chlorophyll. It will not be able to live like a normal cactus seedling that just is able to take the sunlight and like turn it into nutrients. This one doesn't have that. So you would have to graft it in order to give it everything it needs. And that seedling doesn't look like it would make it through grafting either. Probably not. So these here look, they look interesting. This is Hilde Wintera. Hilde Wintera seedling. Hilde Wintera is a weird kind of genus that belongs to Cactus, but in my opinion, you know, it's a little bit different. And yeah, genetically pretty small population. There aren't that many that have been found. The genetic range isn't huge. And with the hybrids, it gets even smaller. So sometimes you have seedlings that are not healthy, not perfectly healthy. And every time I have Hilde Wintera grow, every time I grow them from seeds and I notice that they are growing healthily, I appreciate that. I notice that, you know, because it's not something that I take for granted. It doesn't happen all the time. So yeah, these are looking great for that. Maybe we can get something cool because the flower of these was white, but it had a Trichocereus kind of flower or Echinopsis kind of flower. The flower of this one wasn't that it had the classic Cleistocactus-like flower that Hilde Wintera often has. When you make a Hilde Wintera cross, ideally you would like to have something that has a big flower like Trichocereus or like Echinopsis, a little bit smaller than Trichocereus, but still bigger. And the shape of the flower of Hilde Wintera, because Hilde Wintera has a nice shape, very interesting kind of petal shape and all. They call it corolle, I guess, or there's even more specified words for that thing. But it's just a round ring of petals, and that surrounds the stigma, and it is very interesting. It looks nice, and if you could get that into a huge kind of flower, that would be amazing. That would be great, and that's why this cross here, why we sown them out, why there's potential, because if you can bring a bigger flower into Hilde Wintera, or maybe can get that flower shape from Hilde Wintera on a Trichocereus body, then you would have something that is interesting from a hybrid breeder's point of view. Whether it will be healthy, that is another question. That is something that we would see. Right now, these look pretty healthy. They don't look like they are not able to produce chlorophyll or to, I don't know, just survive the first kind of months of a seedling's life. Sometimes they germinate and they disappear again. They just run out of energy because they were too tiny in the beginning. And then that's it. In nature, that happens every day. Thousands of seedlings disappearing every day. So these here, I noticed something that I really, really don't like. There's 2 expired seedlings lying there. I'm not sure if you see it there. These are the remnants of cactus seedlings. And that is obviously, this was fungus gnat. Welcome to the fungus gnat channel, everyone. This needs to be taken out of humidity. Simple as that. I can't leave it like this. I can't leave it in the bag, because once you notice that the tiny seedlings are disappearing, then it would continue to happen in humidity. You can take them out of the bag now, giving them normal temperature, indoor temperature, about 25 right now, indoors maybe. And under the lamp, the soil will dry out very fast. So we have to spray them daily, but that will work. The soil will dry out, the fungus gnat will be evicted, and yeah, so that's what we will do. And first I need to remove the seedlings that didn't make it. And there's barely anything left. You can barely see it. This was a seedling, but they ate it. And that is just the skin or something like that that was left. Okay. And these are the first 2 seedlings in this container that are affected. So now's the time to do it. If you really feel like this could continue, taking them out makes sense. But these are a little small. Check out the size. These are a little bit too small than what I would love to take out, you know? And that also plays a role. But at this point, I'm just not willing to give away more seedlings to them. I don't want to feed the fungus gnats here. So yeah, this will be dried up. And then we'll see if it doesn't work with these tiny seedlings. If I see that they become smaller and smaller and smaller, or if they change color to red seedling, discoloration of a seedling is often a sign that stress is involved, that it is a stressed seedling. And if you have a whole container that are suddenly turning red, something is too harsh, either too dry, too much sun, or both at the same time. And you can get that kind of discoloration from the cold too. But I mean, you will know if you have freezing temperatures indoors where your seedlings are. So it's usually something like not enough water, excessive heat. Okay, so here is something that I also hate. Look at it. This kind of moss thing here that's going on, that has just started in some of the containers. That is bad. I don't like it. Some people just leave them in a closed container, and that can work. But very often that moss takes away light. It takes away nutrients. It changes the structure of the soil. It takes away the soil's ability to get rid of water, because it kind of, they often use moss to trap water, to keep the humidity in a bag where they start sowing out seeds and stuff, like this kind of a sowing out moss that they sell. And that is why I don't like moss in combination with cactus seedlings. It's not that, that I have a personal problem with moss. It's just that every time I see it, it means that it makes work. It is and in this case, I could take it out or let it in. I mean, if I leave it in right now, it's not hurting anything yet. But I already see that if I look into this, check out here, besides in front of this seedling here, there's one that's already covered by the moss. Under the moss, this thing will not survive. And that means that you will have an infection at some point when that seedling goes. So yeah, I will take out the moss for now. I might take out the seedlings also. For now, not. For now, I will keep them in, but long term, I consider taking these out because this is a pretty bad kind of moss infestation here. And I don't really need that. Okay. Yeah, now the worst is out. This gives the seedlings a little time advantage, you know? Not a lot of time, but a little. And we will have to keep a close eye on them. Next 3 weeks, we could have to take them out. Also, because while I was just moving around in the moss, I wasn't sure if I was seeing something that could be a fungus gnat. The seedlings are okay, but that doesn't have to mean anything. You know, we will have to look at them later, and if there's a problem, we will take them out. Bring them into classic indoor humidity and spray them on a regular basis, because you have to do it. Because if you take them out and you don't give them the water they are used to, they will constantly decline, and that goes pretty fast with these tiny seedlings. With these tiny seedlings, they don't have a lot of substance to lose. So here, this is a perfect example. You wouldn't be able to take these out. If you would take these out, you could spray them, but it wouldn't be enough. You would have to spray them 5 times a day maybe, and then you would have that kind of a consistent humidity in the soil that would just attract fungus gnats. Then they could propagate outside too. Then they could multiply outside a closed bag too. Indoors, when you have plants standing around, drying out is a good way to get rid of certain pests like fungus gnats. But they can come back. I don't think you can effectively get rid of every fungus gnat in a house if you had them once. You know, if you have many different kind of plants everywhere, I don't think that you can patrol the house like that. So you always have to keep an eye on humidity and giving them exactly how much they need, but not too much. So in this case here, these are seedlings of Teleflora, genetically weak, not healthy, but maybe I can grow a few of them. I'm already happy if I can get 1 or 2 plants from it. Some of these very good, interesting kind of crosses. I said good, but I actually meant interesting. They don't have a high success rate with the seedlings. You sometimes get 1 to 10 seedlings, and that's really good. You just lose a lot of them because they are so weak. Okay, so this is in washed pumice, seedlings in washed pumice. These have been transplanted to get rid of the fungus gnat problem. Yeah, and most look okay. Here's one that did not make it with the transplanting into the new medium. Did not work with that one. That one probably was already damaged, or they keep damaging it still, even in the mineral medium. Could also be. That's why I use for the future we will use sowing soil again. Just trying to get rid of them by transplanting into completely new soil again, and that will hopefully work. So in this one, there's one seedling, one tiny seedling, and that one looks not developed, not fully developed. This is a total loss here, this thing. I don't think that seedling will make it. It's not that it couldn't, but it already looks so small that I believe there have been reasons that it hasn't been growing yet. this isn't a young seedling. This is a seedling that might be 3 weeks old. It should be bigger by now. So yeah. Okay, next one. So this is washed pumice, and also this is a good chance to show you something. The pumice is completely dry. The pumice is completely dry in a closed bag. The pumice has stored a little bit water, but it is so dry compared to how the soil would be if you had an organic soil, if you had sowing soil, and that dryness of the medium. But I mean, it can store nutrients, it can store water, but it's limited. At this point, when you have a medium that is like this washed, that means it has perfect drainage. Drainage is a great thing on this kind of medium, and this is too dry probably, even for like in a closed bag. You could put in more water, but I don't think you could really effectively solve that problem. You would have to put in so much water that you then again are at risk of that the seedlings rot. So yeah, this is kind of, I think long term I would just transplant into sowing soil again, clean sowing soil, when we want to ditch the fungus gnats. Okay, and these are looking great, by the way. Here's a little bit better. These have taken in more water. This has been saturated a little bit more. Looks great. I wanted to close it right away because I was happy with everything. So next one. And I consider taking these out now. Check it out. These are a little bit bigger. And the soil is very wet. Soil worries me a little bit. I was looking at the soil and I just didn't like the humidity in that bag. Sometimes it is kind of difficult to have the perfect humidity every time. Because you always use soil from a different part of the bag, and that might have a little bit different humidity, or you put a little bit less water into one of them, into one of the containers, and yeah, sometimes it helps to have the perfect humidity, a little bit more on the dry side. And this is so wet that it promotes the fungus gnats that I really try to avoid. So I consider taking these out. Also, they're a little bit deeper in the pot. That creates more shade. That creates more chance for fungal infections to spread. That is really a thing, because you just create shade the deeper you plant into a pot. Okay, next one. Hey, welcome to the stream. Hello. Okay. Check it out. Really nice seedlings. Also a little bit too deep. But yeah, very nice. So every now and then people visit me in the stream that I know. So yeah, every now and then I speak German and just say hello. And yeah, these are perfect. I will close it up right away. This is nothing that I want to leave out too long. Seedlings are doing okay in the soil. They can stay in the humidity a little longer. The more I take out at once, the more I have to deal with them. And the older they get, the easier it will become to take them out. The easier they don't need so much humidity anymore, the bigger they get. So yeah, every month that I can leave them in the bag a little bit longer is just saving us time and work. So yeah, these are looking good. But we will have to start fertilizing. I feel like these could use fertilizer, and that is something that I need to prepare. I'm not sure how I want to do it on the channel. Maybe I will film it. Maybe I will do it in the stream. But we're getting to the point when I'm carefully starting to fertilize seedlings, because now in this phase they can run out of nutrients that are in the soil. From the time frame we had them started maybe 2 months ago, and that is the time where I feel like things change. You know, the pH level can change over that time. pH level is a huge thing that a lot of people don't even notice, that never really have on their radar. pH level can really screw everything up. And over time, the longer you have a soil that you water and dry out watering, then you have a pest problem, then you are starting to fertilize and give this and that, and at some point the pH level goes into a range where it's unhealthy and you lose the seedlings without even realizing it, you know. And it doesn't even mean they suddenly disappear, they are just not doing well. And that is a thing that is slow and over time. So now we can really make a difference, speed things up a little, make them grow faster through this difficult time. Very young, it's a dangerous time. So these very small, but I think it was a rare cross, something interesting. And let me see here. I just tried to get to the label, but it doesn't work. Okay. Yes, Bamboy. And this is the same cross from the same fruit. Then another one, as the other one that I had, that I showed yesterday, that did not come up. So one of them, full of seedlings, not many, but you can see that there was viability in the seeds. And another one did not come up at all, nothing. So that one that didn't come up, something must have been different. Either the temperature range wasn't met, or it could have been too hot or too cold, and it's rather too cold, honestly, because too hot, I haven't seen it often with seedlings. People tell me it can happen, like probably in Australia and that kind of stuff, you know, because it would make no sense for a seedling to germinate at 37 or 40 degrees Celsius, but somewhere between 30 and 35 for short term is a good temperature to just wake them up, to induce the germination. And once you have the little seedling, then it's a different story. Then you need to be very careful about not losing them due to too much heat. But in the beginning, at seed stage and the first inducing germination stage, it's more likely that you haven't had the right temperature when something doesn't come up, that it was too cold. So yeah, let's go through the containers that I brought yesterday, and these are the ones where we're doing a new germination cycle now. I let them dry out completely, because when you leave them in a wet bag just like that, let's say you leave them there for 6 months, it is highly unlikely that during these 6 months the seeds will come up, because cactus seeds, they are a little bit different than the kind of seeds that have a long germination time, like tree seeds, stuff like that. These are different. These are very different. They need light to come up. They just do not have that kind of a long. Don't need that long treatment before they can come up. So I let the soil dry out completely, and now we're doing it again. Same kind of setting, same heat as before, with new water after having everything dried, and then we'll see what will come up. Because if the seeds are viable, if you give them a better setup, avoid whatever went wrong the first time, then they should come up. So now I just want to look into them to see if there's enough humidity in it. And I want to show you how much humidity I exactly have in that thing. A little bit, maybe a little bit too wet. Ideally, if I would have said it, it would have been a little bit drier. If it wouldn't be so difficult to get it all of the time when the soil is completely dry. Sometimes soil just soaks up the water and then everything's still dry. But in this case, this will be all right. This will work. And if we are doing a second germination cycle now. If nothing comes up this time, then we're not doing a third one. You can do that if that's something like extremely rare. Rauhocereus, something that you just need to try everything, where you don't want to give up. Then you can do third, fourth germination cycle, and you might even have results. It is just a numbers game, because the more of these cycles you do, the more space you use for germinations where you could just germinate something else, something viable, and then that time where you're wasting time with these old seeds that already didn't come up the first time, you could just do something that loses viability in that time. So yeah, but we will try this. This is also educationally. I would probably not have done it, because I already have so many seedlings that I would probably not want to even increase that. But now this is interesting to do. I've been writing about this for years on Facebook, on forums. We were always discussing inducing germination, and now we can try it out. We will see how our second cycle will turn out. And overall, it's maybe 25 bags that I watered yesterday. Maybe a little bit less. Maybe, yeah, we'll see. I will count them when I have them on the table. And these will go to the heater now. They will go to the heater, and I try to have the temperature at somewhere like 30 degrees, 29. It would also be all right if it is a little bit below. I just try to have the temperature at that kind of range. And if they didn't come up, if they don't come up the next time, then that's it. Then these will go away, like the containers. I will reuse them, and we will do something else with that space that would otherwise be blocked by all of them. In my opinion, if you want to know my gut feeling, I think we will get seedlings in 1/4 of them. I think that's realistic. You always have seeds that aren't viable, and it depends on what kind of a stock you buy, what kind of seeds you buy. With the really good breeders, you should have great viability in almost every cross. But due to the fact that even a breeder can't predict how two parents fit together genetically, there can be that one unviable cross here and there. It always happens, and it doesn't mean you can't get seedlings out of that, but you will have, the likelihood will go down substantially. So yeah, I think maybe 1/4 that would make sense, because some of them must be viable. Just because I've seen seedlings in other containers, it would make no sense. So yeah, okay, this is the last one, and I looked into every one of them, and apparently we have the right humidity in all of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So 16, these will go on the heater, near the heater. I will try to push them as hard on the heater as I can, simply because it is easier to guarantee a certain temperature. Sometimes you have the heater produces a certain heat, and within 10 centimeters of that, or within such a piece, you already lose the temperature and don't get to where you need to be at that 29 maybe. I think 29 is what they often recommend, and always a little bit lower even for some cacti. And it also differs between fresh and old seeds. Very old seeds, they sometimes take a little longer to come up. might need a little bit more heat, or might even need a little bit UV light to wake them up. If you want to increase the likelihood that something comes up, there's something called gibberellic acid. I think that's, I'm not sure how it's spelled in English. I only know how to write it, but you can get that to induce germination, to improve germination. There's rooting stuff that you can use that also affects germination. Can make sense with something like this where you already had problems with it the first time. But yeah, and these will go to the heater, and that's a good thing. Then we'll see. I will tell you exactly how many of those will come up in the future. I just need to keep an eye on. I need to keep them separate from the ones that we just sown out, the fresh ones, and then we can tell how many seedlings we got through this second cycle that we're doing now. Okay, so I brought a little box full of new cactus seeds. So let me see what I have here. I'm not sure how old these are. You every now and then you just forget. You forget to clean some of the seeds, and especially when it's the small ones. So I'm just looking through everything here. Okay, let's see what we have here. Every now and then, when I'm in the greenhouse and ants are eating the seeds, you know, sometimes the ants take it, like slice up a cactus fruit and carry away the seeds. And this is a bag where I had tried to save a bunch of seeds that were distributed everywhere in the pot. So I had, can I get me something to pick them up from the soil? And now I have them on this piece of paper, and I will try to just sow them out. This was a fruit of Echinopsis subdenudata. Interesting Echinopsis, long flower tube, white flowers, and very nice flowers actually, have a nice shape. And I've been working with them repeatedly because I see potential in it, and because there aren't a lot of people that have been breeding with it, apart from using it as a fodder for columnar trichocereus. I believe there must be potential in subdenudata in regards to the flower, just getting nice big flower into it, some kind of stuff, because the body is pretty nice. It's an interesting, nice Echinopsis. So yeah, every time my plant flowers, I try to get to pollinate it with something that has an outrageously big flower. And that's what happened here. Here's the remnant of the fruit that the ants left. Ants are really a big problem for me, because I don't like to work with any kind of pesticide. I try to stay away from that kind of thing because it affects all life in a pot. And very often you have good life in a pot. You know, a healthy soil consists of living insects, little tiny springtails, whatever. Little things that usually do not bother you as a breeder. So I try to not overdo it with any kind of treatment that affects that. I believe we need to, as a gardener, we need to try working a little bit differently than they did in the past. So trying to solve the problems without spraying the whole collection at once, you know. So every now and then I have ants in between that are just carrying away the seeds. That is something every year I need to defend my cactus fruits in the greenhouse. And yeah, the only way to deal with that would be to get really to do stuff that I don't want to do. I just try to garden around them. I don't know. I don't want to. I know I could get rid of ants in the greenhouse. It's not that, you know, they're really a nuisance. They're a big nuisance, and I really hate when I come into the greenhouse and find a fruit that they took apart. But I see it as the price that I pay for being part of all this nature. You know, I try to, when I grow my plants, I try to do it in a way that allows these animals to live around me. And in the last 10 years, I think I had a paper wasp nest in my greenhouse, like in one of the small, it's a small greenhouse and it's a small nest. It's not big and they are not aggressive. So I try to work around them and it usually works. I don't want to say that there aren't problems, every now and then they get a little angry, but it's usually not a problem. It's not the same as when you have like one of those yellow jacket kind of wasps in the greenhouse. And it's the same with with any kind of living thing in the soil. I just believe it can't be always the most likely scenario to use a pesticide, to solve problems with a pesticide or to get rid of everything that is alive in the soil. A lot of people are working with living soil, and that is a thing. I believe that is the way to go into the future. Because if we look into the declining insect numbers in every area, then it probably has to do with the pesticides, that are so common in all kind of culture. And in my opinion, hobby growers, they are the least of the problems. In my opinion, the commercial, the wide use of pesticides on a larger basis is a huge problem. But it also affects everyone in their home, because we are all a part of nature. We're all a part of this ecosystem surrounded by living things. And if we do not keep that in mind when we are treating the plants, then we will lose more and more insects. It's just natural. How could we not? That's why we are using it. So and in this case, I actually got a bunch of seeds from them, from this bag here. I'm very surprised that it actually happened, because when I saw that fruit on the ground, I did not think there would be any seeds to save. So that is great. And every now and then, when I really find seeds on the ground, then I get like a sticker, something that the seeds can stick to. Sometimes you can pick them up again when they are somewhere, when they landed in a pot. And that's how I got these out again. I basically collected the seeds all around the plant because the ants had left them back there. Overall, maybe 20 seeds, but that is plenty if they are viable. If 5 of them would be viable, that would be great. And Echinopsis subdenudata, the species is heavily used as a fodder, and mostly because it always creates a very beautiful body in a Trichocereus or in a columnar cactus. You can usually see the shape of Echinopsis subdenudata in the offspring. You can just see it. It has these uniquely formed ribs, and especially when it's with a species like Scopolycola, Echinopsis scopolycola, it makes a good combination. But in all my life, I think I have seen maybe 10 hybrids with Echinopsis subdenudata, with interesting big flowers that are colorful, that are not the classic botanical white. And personally, I made one with Lobivia venteriana, and that one had the body of Echinopsis subdenudata. It had the flower shape of the Echinopsis, but the flower color of the Lobivia. And I love that cross. That was a good cross, and it's one of my best. And it's such a simple hybrid, it's just a hybrid between 2 botanical species. You would not think that kind of cross would have a great kind of offspring, such a positive outcome. But sometimes you can't see it. You can't, just because you have 2 plants that are, if you look at them alone, mediocre, they could make a great combination. That happens so often. So I will be sowing them out. They could be unviable, because I've kind of forgot about them for a while. Like I said, I found them in a crate of seeds, but I want to try it out. This is one of the plants where over the years I became more interested in working with, because I know how very few hybrids with this species there are that kind of have the good flower, the really good one that you see on Cantora, like a 20 centimeter. Imagine Echinopsis subdenudata with a huge kind of flower, and it might never happen, but doesn't mean we shouldn't try. At some point, there's probably a limitation in regards to the flower size, depending on the body, you know, but who knows? It's worth a try. I've seen hybrids this year that were reddish, I think. Reddish in flower color. I haven't seen anything multicolored, like on a lot. I might have seen one where it wasn't clear that Echinopsis subdenudata is in it too, but with just the body and the classic Echinopsis flower, I haven't seen anything multicolored. The one that I made there with the Lobivia winteriana, it had pinkish, reddish kind of flower with a white throat. So that's a good start. Over the years, I pollinated it with a hybrid, with a Cerenzia telegonoides hybrid that has huge flowers. So that could have great potential. That Cerenzia telegonoides hybrid pollinates everything. It is just so fertile that it pollinates everything. That is why probably that cross even worked. Otherwise, it might have not even worked. A lot of the classic Trichocereus pollen fails on Echinopsis subdenudata due to the length of the tube. That kind of Echinopsis has an etiolated tube, very long, elongated, that's the right word, and that means it needs a specific type of pollen to get down to the ovum through that long flower tube that it has. And not all pollen can probably do that. But like I said, Cerenzia telegonoides is so fertile, bordering to self-fertility, that it often pollinates everything it touches. And that can be interesting. We'll see how that one will come out. And I also crossed it with a hybrid called Fast 12. Also very interesting. Okay. So yeah, and welcome to everyone who keeps finding us from outside. Welcome to the stream. Great to have you guys around. Every now and then we just find a lot of outside viewers, and that is great. The more the merrier. So yeah, this is Echinopsis subdenudata. And I need to show these out very fast, because otherwise these could already be unviable. And the way they were stored, this was just not a great way to store them somewhere in a box. So I need to do this very fast. Maybe next time. So let me see what I have here. Oh yeah, see that there's so many interesting hybrids that I have here, and sometimes you forget them. This is a fruit of feathers. Very beautiful kind of feathery hybrid. Let's see if there's any kind of seed in it. I can't tell you. Check it out. I should have sown these out. I'm a fool. I'm really constantly amazed by myself, by being such a... But yeah, these should have been sown out a while ago. So that's what we will do in one of the next streams. Feathers, multi-hybrid, hybrid with G15. G15, I think that is a Gräser hybrid. G15, Supergelb, Herzdame, and Dagati. That's the parents, I think. It's possible I forgot one. I need to look at the long list. I wrote it down somewhere, but I think it's G15, Supergelb, Herzdame, and Dagati. Yeah, and flowers are ragged, feathery, really good. Shouldn't happen that I don't sow these out. In the past, that plant often had small fruit that was almost empty, and maybe I had the feeling this was a waste of time. But looking at the seeds in front of my eyes, it is clearly not a waste of time. So we will try this out. These are pretty good. Last year, I had the biggest fruit on that plant so far, and it was full of seeds. I never had that before. It is one of the plants that where I also feel like fertility issues could be in the air. And because it involves Supergelb, and Supergelb is a relative of Super Apricot, which has known fertility issues. So it is important when you have a good, healthy cross, it is important to grow it. Sometimes you just pick the right partner for a plant, the right father. So yeah. Okay. So let me put that on a piece of paper. Maybe 200 seeds, if at all, maybe 150. And needs a lot more cleaning. This is not ready. I think I will clean these under running water. So let me just put aside a bag here, paper bag, and these will go under the sieve, under running water, and I will run this through the sieve to clean this a little bit more efficiently, because right now this isn't. You could clean it, but it wouldn't be done in a hygienic way, where you can't guarantee that there won't be a fungal infection later on. The way this looked like, I want to clean it some more. Sometimes you can clean everything perfectly where you know that there's not a lot of dust that's sticking to the seeds. In this case, I can't. So yeah. And I will clean these fast. This needs to be done very soon. So next one. This. Okay, Lobivia, Cantora. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I know what it is. No, I don't want to sew that one out. I sorted that one out. I have a bunch of when I sorted the plant out, I wrote it on the bag, like when the fruit is from a plant that I sorted out, then I wrote it on the tag. Okay. And some of them I can see that it must have been somewhat mediocre. But I still want to clean them. I just try to prioritize right now. And these are all stuff that I had maybe sorted out. And that explains why so many of them haven't been grown yet. So let me see. Okay. So this is Mamacita. Okay, nice. Mamacita Acacia hybrid. Acacia rosei flora hybrid. With Echinopsis. Very tiny fruit. This is dried, so normally it would be maybe twice as big, maybe a little bit bigger. Okay. It feels like cork. and very few viable seeds. This was probably a genetically unhealthy cross, not super well chosen father probably, but sometimes that is exactly the type of father you should use, because you don't want to do the safe hybrid crosses. You want to do the good ones. You want to do the ones that haven't worked in the past, maybe, that have been done poorly, that haven't been done right. So let me see here. Maybe we can get a bunch of viable seeds from this, but it doesn't look good. There's a lot of very flat, unviable kind of seeds. Okay. I'm feeling the small ones where I'm unsure whether they are viable or not. And the majority of the seeds that were in this fruit were not viable. They were tiny, really tiny, even too small to even try induced germination. I wouldn't want to waste time with something that isn't fully developed. You can try if you really want to use the space. It's not that it can't work, that you can't at some point get that one cool plant from something like that, but you need a lot of space for that, and a lot of them will just disappear. So that means a lot of empty containers that you have there, and I really try to max out the little space that I have. So I rather sort out everything that looks like a waste of time, actually. Okay. The longer you do it, the more time you are breeding cacti and whatever you do, the more you appreciate the time you have, and you avoid doing stuff that wasted. In the beginning, I did so much more unnecessary stuff that I'm not doing anymore. And yeah, cleaning the seeds to a point where only viable ones are in there is something that I've learned to really appreciate, and I realized why it's done. You would always think that everything that barely qualifies as a seed, you throw it in, and you just give it a chance. But very often that comes back to haunt you when these barely alive seedlings suddenly turn. It's like in a movie, like in a horror movie. Suddenly they turn and they infest the others. They infect the whole container, and that wastes your time. So I'm not doing it anymore. Overall, maybe 6-7 viable seeds from that fruit. Okay. We will try these out eventually. This is also kind of time consuming, because you might only have 1 or 2 seedlings, but depending on what kind of a parent is involved, it can be worth it. So Mamacita in this case. Mamacita, Acacia, Rosiflora crossed with Echinopsis, and in this case it had probably a columnar father, because that's the kind of cross that I was trying to do in that year when I did this. Okay. This is Dessau Cantora. That's a good hybrid. I've shown it. It has a completely unusual flower. Not the kind of color that you often see. Like a very unusual red. Like the classic, little bit like the Gräser red, but not entirely. Very unique kind of flower color. And the mother plant here that this fruit came from, I had to buy on eBay, and it cost me $30. That was an expensive plant back then, and I haven't seen that hybrids ever since. So yeah, it was good that I bought it. And I definitely trust it enough to think there could be good offspring coming from it. Especially with, like when I see that kind of a flower, with a reddish kind of flower, I usually try something that has the potential to improve the flower. So no matter what I took, this is potentially good. Okay. And overall, I guess this is maybe 100 seeds, maybe a little bit more. Cleaning everything up a little bit more now. Later I need to clean up everywhere here. This whole thing, there's cactus stuff everywhere. Before the next stream, I will take half an hour just to clean up the desk. Okay. And also here, I always roll around the seeds just to get rid of unviable stuff. The idea is that the round seeds roll around a little bit easier. And a lot of stuff that hasn't that kind of perfect shape collects in center, and that allows me to sort out. But it's, of course, it's not super reliable, so you have to often look over it. If you overlook the viable seed here and there, I always clean seeds like that where you have any kind of material left. They need to go through a second cleaning underwater, and that is usually the best way to clean. But it's also the most time and space consuming kind of way to do it. When I clean seeds, I usually have 10 different crosses besides each other drying inside. And at that time, like, you usually do one every 2 days or so, because they also need time to dry afterwards. I dry them on paper towels, and when you do that, it can't be wet. If everything would be wet, you would put together a nice mold sandwich, and you don't do that. So you dry them, let them dry completely, and then you do 10 more. And by doing that, you can cycle through maybe 100 fruit in 10 days, 10 or 20 days, like depending on how much time you take in between, how much drying you allow them to do. And it isn't really necessary to dry them super long. I have tested it. You know, people say that they need a year, whatever. That is not true. If you let the freshly washed seeds dry out completely, then you should actually be able to sow them out. And that is what happens. You will very often have viable seeds then. But they should at least get dry once. Because if you clean them, you take them out of the fruit. In the fruit, they are surrounded by pulp. They are humid. They have humidity. Then you take them out, and if you keep them wet all the time, they will always have that natural resistance against coming up, germinating inside the fruit, because that shouldn't happen in nature. Because it basically means the seedling doesn't have a chance to make it later. So it's not an advantage, like not a genetic advantage, evolutionary disadvantage. So that doesn't happen normally. Drying them a little bit, maybe a week, plenty enough. Sometimes I'm sure there are seeds that might benefit from letting them dry a little longer, but I really didn't feel like it made a big difference for me. Okay. So, yeah, I think this is good. This is decent. I guess 100 seeds maybe. So Dessau Cantora Gelb. I'm not sure who the breeder was of this one. Probably Hartmut Kellner, but I'm not sure. Like I said, I got that plant from eBay and I got it with the label Dessau crossed with Cantora Gelb, nothing else. At least I believe it. I need to look at old videos. Maybe I can find an old video. If I had more on the label, it should be visible in an old video. So I will check that out later. I could also, it's also the kind of hybrid that I could see coming from Axel Neumann in the beginning. But also, I'm sure Reinhard Liske did something similar. So Dessau, Cantora. When I say Cantora, I usually mean Cantora yellow, Cantora gelb. Gelb just means yellow in German. And that is just the name. Okay, what's this? Wörlitz Cantora. And this Luxantinopsis. Oh, this is nice. Okay. What's this? This needs to be washed. Fruit's too big. Needs underwater. Okay. Luxantinopsis, and it's a big fruit for that. Check it out. Let's see how many seeds we have here. Not so many. You would think like with that size. But also maybe 80. Could even be 100. And that is a success with Luxantinopsis. Luxantocereus is a interesting cactus for hybrid breeding. I'm not working as much with it as I wanted to, because it apparently is a little bit more cold hardy than I can guarantee. But I see potential there. I have that one hybrid by Andreas Wessner, and I keep showing it, and people keep loving the photos and everything. It's a nice kind of flower, reddish kind of hybrid, but I always have to pick the right spot for it in winter. When I have it at a spot that is suboptimal, it will just not look great. Gets cold spots and that kind of stuff. You know, you can see that it's a little bit more cold sensitive. Okay, so I'm just removing everything from the fruit that wasn't seeds, because I just crushed the fruit basically. And since this has been a while, the pulp is just dry. At some point, you can just remove it. But you can't do that with the flowers, with the fruit that is bigger. For example, if you would take one of those large Trichocereus kind of fruit, or a Telegonoides kind of fruit, you would end up with sludge that the paper bag would just melt from all the humidity, all the sugar that is in there. And these just have smaller fruit. They're so small that they tend to dry up like a raisin. Easier to clean them right away, but in this case, we're doing it now. Better late than nothing. Better late than never. So also cleaning this one up a little. Might also sort out a bunch of viable seeds, but I would bring them back later if I see them somewhere in between. Just in the beginning, it makes sense to clean up a little bit. Like do the rough work first, and then later refine it. Yeah, and this is one of the crosses that I would definitely sow out. And I have a bunch of them. I can't wait to see how they will flower. I also sent a bunch of them around, I think. I'm not sure, but I believe I did. Over the years, this is just one of the hybrids that always had a lot of fruit for me. Not huge fruit, but consistently setting fruit. And I appreciate that. Hybrid by Andreas Wessner. And I haven't seen a lot of Luxantocereus hybrids. There are very few around. In my opinion, like I said, it's a little bit cold sensitive cactus, but the flowers are unique. It has a unique kind of look to it. Looks very different to all the Cantora hybrids that you see today, and that makes it useful. That could be great. But what also could happen is that the offspring will look exactly like the mother. That is something that I really worry about this kind of hybrid. It's something that I often see on Acacia, that I often see on Hilde Winterer. You wait so long for the offspring to flower, and then it finally happens, and it looks exactly like the mother. That could be one of the most likely outcomes here. This is too small. Sometimes you see a seed that looks like it could be viable, but it isn't. And I also tried Borzi cactus. Borzi cactus is another genus that is similar to Luxantocereus. Luxantocereus and Borzi cactus, they just differ basically from being a little bit on different sides, like on different parts of a huge kind of mountain area, and between the countries. Like one country is that one genus and the other country is the other. And as far as I know, I look at them and they look pretty similar, but they are so separated, like from where they grow, that it kind of makes sense to have them separate, but they are clearly somewhat connected, and you could also put these into one species and say it's just a big range, and you have one subspecies on the other side that evolved differently. But hard to tell, because you could also say that they just share a common ancestor. I don't know. This needs DNA testing, and I'm not involved enough to say where they will go with this. If they will treat this in the future, if they will treat this as one genus or not, it's not really, doesn't matter to me. But that's how they explained it, that they separated them like as genera, having one name for that part and the other for those. And Borzi cactus, when I tried them, they were so cold sensitive that they didn't make it. The first year I had a great plant that I was so happy to have, and the winter came in, and that was it. So every now and then you realize that plants are rare in cultivation, because there are problems to grow them at certain places. So like I had problem with Rauhocereus. Rauhocereus is such an amazing plant. I would love to have one. Someone sent me one, and it did so poorly in the winter. In the whole greenhouse, there was one plant that I lost, and it was the Rauhocereus, and everything was right. It had the best spot. It just didn't do well with the cold. I could have overwintered the whole collection a little bit warmer, and if I had known, I might have just done it in the house. I would have brought the plant into the house. But once you put that thing in there, you need to trust that it makes it through the winter. And Rauhocereus, in my opinion, they don't like the cold. It's a Peruvian kind of cactus. They like humidity. They just don't do well with super cold temperatures. Some Trichocereus are frost hardier than Rauchocereus. At least that is what my experience was in the greenhouse. Maybe someone can grow them, you know, when you grow them from seeds, when you slowly harden them up and get them used to your own setting. It's always something when you bring in a plant from another breeder and then bring it into your own kind of grow space, and the environment is a little bit different. It might not be used to the winter temperature. And Loxanthocereus, I put that in a similar category, just for being very similarly frost tender. And I want to work with Rauchocereus in the future. They look amazing. It's an amazing kind of plant, amazing kind of cactus. Very rare. And you usually don't get seeds for it, but every now and then specialist breeders manage to get them to cross. And they can even cross with other genera like Trichocereus, Echinopsis, that kind of stuff. I've seen hybrids before. Misplant did some with his Rauchocereus that he's been breeding with. I'm not sure how it's going, but it works. Okay, so these are pretty clean. Mostly clean enough. We'll definitely clean some more when we're sowing them out. But this is good enough to bag them. I will really try to sow these out sometime soon and keep an eye on them this time. They can't go out into the greenhouses until they are big, simply because I don't trust them to take the winter as a seedling. Maybe later on when they are bigger, but as a young seedling, everything needs to be right for them. And for now, I don't have that kind of a trust yet. I have a lot of trust issues when it's about exposing the plants that I've grew from seeds to the elements. And I will keep it indoors for much longer now. In the past, I always had, you know, you have success indoors and then you move them out. And that also requires a careful adaptation of the seedlings to the new environment, and you sometimes lose a lot when you do that, when you don't do it right. Okay, so Loxanthinopsis, and we will sow them out sometime soon. Okay, I think this is it. I think I did everything that I wanted to do today. Always happy to take questions. If not, I will probably go offline soon. But yeah, I will be back, and then we will do some more of that. Next time with more seedlings. Next time maybe with sowing out again. I would see. I first need to buy a bunch of pots. I can now buy pots again, and I will do that. So within the next couple of weeks, I will probably come with a bunch of new square pots. Try to maybe buy 100, 200, something like that. And then we will continue to sow out. Not too many, but as many as I can. Simply because you need to sow out the good stuff. Because otherwise you might never see it. You might never see what will come from them. And I don't want that to happen. So yeah, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. It was a great stream again. I had fun. Take care, Luke. It was great to have you around. I always appreciate when you come by, and also everyone else. Thank you. Vielen Dank, how they say here. I appreciated it, and I will be back tomorrow. So yeah, thank you guys. Take care.